Not yet. They're just doing morning live. That's fine. Soon and I we're almost there. You go to I need to do the toilet as well. Ian, do you want to frame a shot? Okay, yeah. Happy? So why am I not seeing it then? This is control room book.
I mean, it's labelled LBH. So yeah.
Are you Chris, are you?
Yes.
Chris, I'm guest.
Well, how are you?
Oh, right.
I think a message yesterday. I think verse 2 isn't on the making, it's on flying lead.
Oh, okay.
Does that mean if I go and look at that?
Yeah.
Oh, Paul, can you be the guest?
I am. Yeah.
You and your 77s.
Hey!
Where do you nick them from?
So, only the best. You want good sound?
Oh, you have shit sound. You can hear it.
Yeah, no. You're also keeping my ears.
Yes, they're good up for that, aren't they? Yeah.
And you don't end up with them sort of propped up on your ears. They encompass that there. I saw your pictures of Carol.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was very funny because actually she turned up. So I wrote this. Feel free to change it. So I went to, when she was in the pub, I'd set up. You've seen my pictures of the dish. That's too much money.
Yeah.
She was talking
I know
to
that creepy hand.
She was talking to the mayor and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, she took me on one time. She said,
Oh, really?
really? I said, the Great Conquer, the national treasure.
Done
I said, you've never done a public opening
oh,
So I explained what it was. And bless her, she got on the bus. She pretty well recited my speech.
excellent.
She memorised it.
Well, I suppose that's her job, isn't it?
Well, yes,
she
exactly.
writes
Yeah,
the script
yeah,
and then has to get it absolutely word perfect.
And I wrote a few jokes in there as well.
Right. Yeah. Something white.
I got my under.
Yeah. But yeah, no, we need something white.
And so she did it. Anyway, so I then said, Carol, look, I'm going to do an interview for Rachel. I was going to do it at 6:30 after the lights switch on. And
Do you want the light on?
and I said to her, don't take this the wrong way. Can I do it before? She said, why is that? I said, because I've got my choir practice to do it before about 7. And I want to get off as soon as possible. And I don't want to be hanging around with you. Anyway, so I packed. We did this interview. That's the photograph that two of us together. Did this interview. And then I went off to the choir practice. Went panic in the cellar. And I came out of choir practice and I sent her a message saying, hi. And I got a message. Hi Tim, this is Steve.
Oh, right, here.
She's still here. This is 9:15.
What?
She stayed. She arrived at 5. Sorry? 7, 8?
Do you not want the light on it as well? Do you not want the light on? No? Okay.
So yes, we're doing the white line. Oh, sorry. No, it's got control room space. That's control room space.
Put it on the ground, come round if you want.
Okay, remember that if it's in the shadow, okay, it will be very blue. So pick a panel that's got a bit of proper daylight on it, not shadow daylight.
Pop it on the ground and you come round.
Oh.
Look at it later.
Are you sure your LBH and control room video is the same thing? You might know it as OB turn 2. Try Swift before 2. Can that be really good?
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I beg your pardon.
It's all right.
I'm being super organised.
I'm doing the really important job of holding your white balance.
Sorry, I beg your pardon.
Jack, sorry.
Yes.
Jack, hello. Hello.
It's someone. It's a technophone.
That's right.
Who doesn't
When you
recognise
go
what
live
we're
now.
doing.
Listen, this is what over there. Because I think I'm going to have to actually this up. So, yeah, whenever you're ready, mate. All right. Are they both yours? Oh, yeah, no worries. That's all right. Oh, that was easy to drag it down the end.
I've got a picture returned now. Somebody at Morgan.
Oh, right. That's really cool. I know, this is the angle here, right? That's the
No, Slate. I'm bringing Scar, don't worry. I see, alright, so Tim down the street. Maybe Colin's just called me, and
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
yes, it is. Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah. it's your control room to right. Which is kind of quite
LVH OV return 135.
and then it's LVH OV return 1357. On and on one, please. Yeah. Number one. Number one. Okay. There we go. That's it. You can see it there. The reason it's on is because they've got the new eyes. Right, I'll call back shortly for a full lineup test. Thank you. Cheers. Bye.
And I think so the SDI company is only
And the other number on rack one.
yeah. They're particularly much faster, so I was thinking
Yes, it's here. You know what? I've got another Y lead if you want. That's coming out of the clean feed. I'll get you another clean feed. Hang on. Ian? Oh, sorry. Yeah, so from the official light switch on at 6:30, just walking around the crowd. Steve.
Resign.
Steve. Off. No, it's fine. I've told you. The town council admin starts and the organisers on the bus were all over to Steve. So that should be Carol. I was chatting to Steve. Anyway, he said.
He's also a firearms. He's also a firearms.
I know.
So he spends most of his time training it.
So, I said no. I was a black.
Yeah, exactly.
We are. Paul, can you just tap the two microphones for me? The one with
Yeah.
the shield.
One with the shield is right. So if I just start talking about this level, is that looking good?
Yeah, can you tap the one without?
Oh, fine. How are we doing? Yeah, no. Up here, fine. Yeah.
Happy with microphone one? This is microphone one, talking on mic one. Talking on mic one.
nice guys down the street getting it ready to do comps checks. I think we're on news package 51. Yeah, so you should be able to hear me coming in on the feed. Oh, I can hear myself, that's cool. Yeah, so clean feed return. No, nothing on that one, stand by. No, nothing. Can we check? Can we just check we're in the right one? Oh, can I just check it's dialed on? Nothing? Can you hear that? Yeah, keep talking on. Once more. My colleague can hear you, but I can't hear you. That's my problem. Would you mind just, is there any chance you could just push network speed to do that? Yeah, at some point. I'll get some coming. If I could just have the other coming down, I believe. Okay, just check me one second. Ian, you getting BBC One now then? Can you hear BBC One coming back? Can you hear it on yours? Right, I can hear it on one of them. Can I call you back in just a second? Would you mind just waiting there? Excellent. Thank you very much. I'll call you back in a second. So you're not getting it there? You got that now?
Thanks, Carl.
You've changed. Right, so it's this box then. Got it? I'll do that. I've also got earpieces and a headphone up. Studio tour. Well, I think it's Hi Scar, it said Tim down the street. Yes, I've got to return now. Entirely our fault. That's good. I can hear BBC One loud and clear now. Yeah, got you. Thank you very much. Cheers. And you, yes, on the, is that Newspack 51, is it? Okay, 52, which is camera 2. You should also hear the audio coming down that as well. No, it's just in case streaming takes you switch between cameras. And then you should have standby camera 10. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Cheers. Thanks, bye.
Some white paper. Oh, you
What's that? Do you want the brolly again? Oh, in the... Yeah.
The auto-script bag is here.
No, the TV.
This one we doing as well?
No, thermal help at school.
Six five.
Can you get 72 on that?
I mean,
Happy? Yeah. It'll get warmer as the morning goes on.
same colour now? Are you happy? Oh, right.
Only other one who's been has been a car. Is it? The only other person who's been
I mean, I can hang around until.
And literally, as soon as I left, there was six about the car came in.
Bradford stuff. What is she doing?
Speaking to ordinary people. Yes.
Alright, so is it just a throat?
So
how do I
assessing
assessing what people want? Okay. So it's not just Joe Public, it's sort of more, it's sort of opinion formers in Bradford and that sort of stuff.
a bit of that and a bit of out of that somewhere. After a few personal
No, I'm just doing
I'm getting the hang of this whole comedy thing. Obviously being so fresh into the world. It's, how old are you? 14?
Is that straight? Yeah. Well,
It's 21. Once you keep asking kids, I'm just interested in it. It's a little bit fun.
they're going to be that sound, are they?
How long did you? My car, I wish I could have his neck.
I'm Dylan.
So really? It's just like, no.
Morning. I can't see them as yet, but yes, I've had a quick look at them. Yep. Yeah, talking at this level, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. How's that? Yep. Okay, alright, thank you. It is budget day, we're in Downing Street, outside at number. We're in a few minutes' time. Chancellor Reeves Budget will reveal to us our famous red box and the budget she hopes will shore up her position and that of the embattled Prime Minister. Here to Westminster, Canada huddled in the room volunteering this budget can mean for each of their departments in this field. Last week they were rapid retreat from it. This week we think primed for smaller tax rises to fill. The central problem take my case off.
Huh? Yeah, I
Yeah, I could use it turned up.
I'm
this side.
Morning, Nick.
Yeah, that's
Hey,
fine.
Christian, how are you? Nice to see you, mate.
Well, yeah, very well,
Don't
thank
mind
you.
that.
Start early.
Either that or I've... I don't know, do we need any earpiece?
You might have some PCLs. George?
Yeah.
Can you shoot that on my back?
Thank you. Yeah, that's the one. Thank you.
How are you?
Can you just scroll up on the... Hello. Live from Downing Street, I'm Christian Fraser. Can we just have a quick run through?
Do you want to be next too?
Live from Downing Street, I'm Christian Fraser. This is... Who's on auto cue?
Would it be best if Nick is next to Christian? Probably, wouldn't it? So we'll probably well, no, because the first questions will probably be to the politics.
Yeah.
That's all right.
I don't mind.
Fine,
So,
Is that because you'd have to stand and pretend to look interested in what they're saying?
I don't mind, but it's easier if you don't have to do that.
It's honestly my biggest fear just now is those one
Can we
plus
just check that
twos
this
in
auto
the
cue
studio.
works?
Right. Where you've got to sit and
Naomi, are you-
and
can you
look
scroll up
interested
and down
in
and
what
see if it
someone else is
works?
saying, being caught off
Yes,
guard.
okay. Hi. Yeah, can we just have a quick run through and make sure this all works? Live from...
There's one that's
Okay.
basically just trying to concentrate.
Yeah, I'll talk
Live
about
from Downing Street, I'm Christian Fraser. This is
the
BBC
economy.
News.
It's
The cabinet
2.9
meeting
trillion
is underway
pounds
here
in
in
terms of
Downing Street
GDP.
ahead of Rachel. That's a
Growth
bit
is
slow.
pretty weak.
Yeah, I will talk at this level, or
Stopped.
maybe this level if I get excited.
The cabinet meeting is underway here in... Yep.
Are they scrolling?
He's got to mix it. We're mixing it here.
Yep. Oh wait.
All right, yeah, they were just testing guest mic. Okay. Okay.
How are you, Danny?
Live from Downing. All right. All right. Live from Downing Street, I'm Christian Fraser. This is BBC News. The cabinet meeting is underway here in Downing Street ahead of Rachel Reeves' budget announcement this afternoon, in which she will lay out her tax and spending plans to Parliament. We will have special coverage. The Chancellor says she will make fair and necessary choices to ease the cost of living, but will it be enough to ease the concerns of the markets? It's a bit slow for me, Hannah, if you just scroll a bit quicker. I can't hear Lewis. Yeah. All right, okay. Blah, blah, blah.
It's just that step. Oh no, it's the problem is some of the too much. It's too much.
Overstating it to say this is make and break for her.
I don't think it would. Slightly overselling it for me. Depends what you mean by selling, I suppose.
Yes. Yeah, it's not just down there.
They got dogs. Quite funny to show that. I don't know what that is. I think it might be something like cabinet.
Live from Downing Street, I'm Christian Fraser. This is BBC News. The cabinet meeting is underway here in Downing Street ahead of Rachel Reeves' budget announcement this afternoon, in which she will lay out her tax and spending plans to Parliament. We will have special coverage. The Chancellor says she will make fair and necessary choices to ease the cost of living. But will it be enough to ease the concerns of the markets? see number 10 or number 11?
You've got 10 out of it.
10 up.
Sorry, you've got this one.
Yes. Number 11's called Posh. Sneaky cat. A very good morning. It is budget day. We are in Downing Street, outside number 11, where in just a few hours' time the Chancellor Rachel Reeves will emerge and reveal to us the famous red box, and a budget she hopes will shore up her position and that of the embattled Prime Minister. It is a cold, frosty morning here in London. The Cabinet Secretaries have just gathered in number 10 to hear what the budget will mean for each of their departments, and it does feel as if we've been through quite a few iterations of this budget already. There was the floated rise in income tax and then the rapid retreat from it. This week we've been primed for a whole smorgasbord of smaller tax rises to fill a £30 billion fiscal hole. Now, at the last budget, Rachel Reeves gave herself just a sliver of headroom, which always increases the risk that a Chancellor will be blown off course. And behind it all lies the central problem that the UK faces: weak growth, high spending, and in recent years some overly optimistic forecasting from the OBR. There will be a downgrade, we're told today, in the productivity forecasts. This week, she asked the fractious left of the party to be patient and to back the whole package, not cherry-pick the parts that they like best. The question now is whether she can deliver something credible enough for the markets and reassuring enough for her own backbenchers. With me in Downing Street to guide us through the day, Nick Eardley, our political correspondent, and Andrew Fauci, our economics correspondent. Welcome to you both. How much jeopardy do you think the Chancellor is in right now? And would it be overstating it to say this is a make or break day for her?
I mean, it's make or break in the sense that if she gets this right, she might buy herself a bit more time to steady the ship. How many times have you seen big questions about her future, about the Prime Minister's future, over unforced errors? A lot of MPs are extremely unhappy with what's been going on behind both of these doors over the last few weeks. Is it the case that if this goes badly wrong, the Chancellor is done? Probably not immediately, in the sense that there isn't an obvious mechanism by which the Labour Party will start to change things. But be under no illusion, politically, this is a huge, huge moment. Been on the back foot for months, has really struggled to set a narrative for what it wants to do with power. Today will be an attempt to change that.
The Cabinet's been going in over the last 5 or 10 minutes. Will they know most of the detail of this, and what is the purpose of gathering them around the table ahead of the statement?
We'll get a lot of the detail in there just now. I'm sure Rachel Reeves is giving them her pitch for why this is the budget that we need to deliver. She's been doing that all week, actually. It was in Parliament on Monday when she was speaking to backbench Labour MPs, telling them that this was going to be a budget that was difficult but necessary. And I think that probably gives us a sense of where we're going to be this afternoon. There's going to be some stuff in there that's really unpopular. We've got a lot of criticism over the next 24 or 48 hours. But it feels, Christian, that when you look at what we know is in there, what we think is in there, and what might be in there, it feels like a budget that is aimed at Rachel Reeves' party. Of course, it's going to matter how this goes down the market. Of course, it's going to matter how this goes down with the business world. They seem pretty unhappy with what they've heard so far. But when you look at things like scrapping the two-charge cap, when you look at the tax rises that are coming, when you look at the mansion tax, whatever form that ends up taking, when you look at the promise not to cut spending, more tax for the NHS, more money to tackle the cost of living, that's the sort of stuff the Labour MPs will chew your ear off about. So I think a lot of them by tonight might be pretty happy. As ever though, we're working on the previews, which are designed to set the agenda for number 11, devil, to use the cliche, in the detail.
Yeah, see if the real thing's as good as the trailer. Andy, it's finally here. Look, I mean, all governments pitch roll. They like to know, politicians, how a certain policy might go down. But this has been more than usual, and I wonder what sort of effect it's had.
It used to be against the rules to trail your budget so heavily. There was a thing called furlough, and the Chancellor was supposed to say nothing about the budgetary measures for at least 3 weeks before the budget. That's completely gone out the window, went out the window with the last government. But I think what the City, what the economists, what the analysts will be looking for is any sign of boost for economic growth. This is what the government said it was coming in to do, to boost economic growth. But the trouble is, if you raise taxes on people, they have less money to spend. That tends to slow down economic growth. And another thing to look for here is there will be the headlines, and there will be, as Nick says, the devil in the detail. Now, one of the devils in the details is spelled taxes, frozen thresholds. We've got used to this idea. We got told by both major parties before the last election that they wouldn't raise tax rates. But that doesn't mean they're not raising your taxes, because by freezing the threshold, more and more of your salary goes above the threshold where it's exposed to tax. You end up paying more tax. It hits the bottom line of your payslip, even if the rates haven't gone up. And in fact, overall, over the last 4 or 5 years, both Tory and Labour rises in taxes through the freezing of thresholds. It's been the biggest tax rise since Geoffrey Howe doubled VAT in 1979. So don't listen when either party says they haven't been raising taxes on working households. They both have. Question now, will she extend that for another 2 years? Hitting you round the back while maybe offering you some sweeteners round the front, like cheaper energy.
A Chancellor's job is to make the spending balance with the tax raising and the borrowing. But there's an unknown factor there, isn't there? And that is what is the economy going to do? And that has put the focus on the Office for Budget Responsibility and their forecast principally for productivity, which we are told will be downgraded.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of points there, Christian. What you said at first, their role, which they always tell us it is to balance money coming out with money going in. Actually, there have been only 5 times since 1971 when the budget has been in surplus. And over the last 125 years, only 14 times out of those 125 years when the budget has been in surplus. Is that a bad thing? Not necessarily, because in a lot of those years we had much higher economic growth than in the last 15 when we were concentrating so hard on austerity. The Chancellor's job is not just to be a steward of the public finances, but also to regulate the economy. And what you've got to think is when the government's in deficit, that means the private sector's in surplus and vice versa. So when the government's in surplus, that's not necessarily a good thing for households and firms. So on the one hand, people want the public finances to be steady. She'll want to reassure the markets. She doesn't want the bond markets to take fright like they did in late 22 after the Trust mini budget. But it's not. It's a bit of a false dichotomy to say if you depart at all from your self-imposed fiscal targets, then the markets are going to sell off. They've changed those targets 10 times in the last 15 years. And what are they anyway? Let's just think about it. The government says in 3 years' time, we want to be spending less than we're getting in on day-to-day stuff like benefits and civil servant salaries. Okay, so that's been a promise now since around about 1997. The number of times that promise has actually been met? Once. 2000, 2001.
Like forecasting the weather.
That's right, exactly.
Because you can't control world events.
And what use is it to have somebody give you a forecast 3 years from now, which is very likely not to come true? So just to give you one example.
Does the OBR get too much power?
Well, there is an argument about that. We have a situation where the OBR, which has been there since 2010, we didn't have it before 2010, everything hangs on its forecast. And there's a question here as to whether the forecast tail is wagging the economic dog. So you need forecasts to work out what's going to happen to the public finances when you take your various measures. But to start with a forecast 3 years from now and work backwards and then set your policy based on that, a lot of people are now questioning whether that's a sensible framework when you have to plan over a much longer time frame. If you want to hit net zero, for example, you've got to plan over 20 or 30 years.
And he's saying the expectation is that it will settle nerves on the markets. The ultimate test is whether the voters like it. And I'm interested in your suggestion that this is a progressive looking budget that will please the backbenchers, because there is a story in the Times newspaper today, quoting a YouGov poll, that actually, you know, those lower income families are not actually where the bulk of Labour's support is now. And if you freeze tax thresholds, you're actually hitting the middle classes in places like London who are actually voting for Labour.
Think of the things that you would naturally associate with a Labour voter. If we're going to be really general about it, decent salary, yes, you'll be paying more tax under the thresholds that Andy was just talking about. maybe if you've got an electric car, you're going to be paying a bit more tax because there's going to be a charge per mile if you've got one of them. And one of the really interesting things that's perhaps a bit misunderstood about this budget is when you speak to MPs from both sides, particularly Labour MPs, they think that scrapping the two-child policy is the right thing to do. They don't think it's popular. And the polling actually suggests it's really unpopular with a lot of people who might actually be Labour voters. So there's a lot in this that's going to be really complicated, and I suppose the ultimate test over the next few days, when people at home sit down and use the budget calculators or figure out all the things that are going to matter to them, is do they feel, one, any better off, and two, do they think it's fair? Because a lot of people, I suspect, will be prepared to pay a bit more tax if they think there's a benefit from it. The danger for the government is that with the smorgasbord of taxes that people kind of slowly realise they're paying a bit more, and with the spending already set out, they don't feel like they're seeing the benefits.
Well, our special coverage will begin at around 11:15, just ahead of the Chancellor coming out of the doors at number 11 this morning. You can watch it all here on BBC News. Let's get a look a little bit wider at the British economy and what it's going to mean for businesses. Here's our correspondent, Mark Ashton. Okay. What's next?
Can you ask the director of the camera crew have directions what shot they would like on the camera? Not quite sure.
Can we just start? Sorry, say that again. You would...
The director just needs to tell us what shots they would like.
Right. Could you let us know what shots you would like? Because the camera crew, we have 3 cameras here, so they just need a bit more direction.
One or two. One's on you.
1 is on me, and 2 is pointing that way. Don't even know.
Christian?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Did you hear the thing about the cameras? You did? Yeah, news package 54 is package 2. The number 11 camera is on package 54. I'm going to get a minute's up song to get us into a break because they're going to opt us away and then we're on the stream for 15 minutes. Oh, we're going to keep going. Okay, all right.
We can talk about energy, we can talk about the bond markets.
Yeah, let's do that.
I'll try to explain that really simply.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Yep. Sorry. And Vicky Spratt is here, so we can do housing as well. Oh, do we have? We don't have a third mic, do we? No. We can bring her in.
Fourth.
Yeah. 4th mic. Yes. Sorry. Yes. That's why I'm not an economics. Maybe we should talk about debt. If debt were a political department, then the cost of servicing that debt would be second only to the NHS. So what the markets decide is crucially important. We're paying an awful lot of money in debt interest.
Yeah, that's right. And the way to think about it is it's a bit like your credit rating. So if you have a bad credit rating, it means that your lender's going to charge you more interest. So similarly, the bond markets evaluate prospects for the UK economy and set an interest rate that they demand in order to compensate themselves for their risk. If they think that the UK Chancellor has poor credit because we're not sure how she's going to make her fiscal targets work, then they might charge a higher interest rate. The signs are so far is that they've been charging lower interest rates in recent weeks, which does suggest that her efforts to appease the buyers and sellers on the bond markets have been reasonably successful.
When you look at the polling, Nick, The polling actually suggests that people would prefer to pay higher taxes than go through another period of austerity. So they want better services. We need in the country a more honest conversation about how we pay for that. Do you think that gives us some room for this fiscal consolidation?
You're going to hear the Chancellor say, I suspect she'll say it in the Commons today, that there will be no return to austerity. She's going to make a really big thing today about introducing swingeing cuts, like the Conservatives have called for, to balance the book. So yes, in that sense, I do think she has some cover, because people look at public services and quite often question why they're not working. The best example being the NHS. There will be more cash for the NHS in the budget today. However, I do think we will see some cuts. Don't know exactly what they will look like, but one of the key areas that's been discussed is obviously welfare. The government wants to bring down the cost of welfare, it's really struggling to do it, because Labour MPs weren't on board with the plan that was announced earlier in the year. But in terms of how you view the big picture with this budget, there's the Conservatives saying that one of the big problems here is we're just spending too much, the state's too big, we need to reduce the size of it. The Chancellor's rejecting that argument. She's saying that we're not going to have big spending cuts on public services. We're going to focus instead on tax rises, because we think austerity again would be really damaging.
Vicky Spratt has just joined us. She's the Housing and Society correspondent for the UK. One of the headline things that is trailed quite heavily is a mansion versus tax. What's that going to affect?
Well, this is something, there's been so much clarifying about this budget and lots of rumours, but one thing we do understand is a new property tax. It looks like it will be on homes worth over £2 million, many of which are in London, which of course is a Labour stronghold. How will it affect Labour is a huge question. How will it affect the market? I think it's a question that the Chancellor's going to have to answer. What this is about is revaluing certain council tax values. Now that's probably a good thing. They haven't been looked at since 1991, and as everybody in this country knows, we've had an epic house price inflation since then. But the people on the receiving end of this mansion tax, as it's being called, probably won't feel that it's very fair if it's only there if they're paying a new tax and not a revaluation of the whole council tax system, which is what was being trailed earlier in the autumn.
Am I right that what she's thinking is a revaluation of houses in that top bracket, specifically for the purposes of this mansion tax, and that will be separate to the council tax back? Because that sounds complicated.
This sounds very complicated, doesn't it? And my understanding, we don't know what she's going to announce. My understanding is that an additional levy. That is
Paid
complicated.
once.
Exactly, but we have heard it might be delayed until after people die. That sounds a lot like an inheritance tax by stuff, and I think that's how people feel about it. So if Rachel Reeves does do this today, she does anything to remove that tax, people are going to pay that mansion tax. So I think how it's implemented really matters. If it's annual, for the people who maybe bought those homes when they weren't worth £2 million plus, that might be a lot of money. It might be asset rich and cash poor. So it could mean that we see some of those properties come back onto the market that can't pay the tax, or that people's children are paying them after they die, which is very hard to stomach for voters.
And homeowners are consultant will know all about the housing ladder. You need those at the top of the shift in order for them to become free. Is there a danger if you put a tax at a specific level that you start getting bunching below that 2 million bracket?
Oh, absolutely. And also people looking at selling just below to make sure they can get a buyer. And I think it could really impact the market in that sense. What I would say though is lots of economists I've spoken to are actually in favour of revaluation of the system as a whole, because we've got properties in London that are worth much more than they were in the 90s. And you know, people in other parts of the country paying far more proportionally than some owners in London. So I think just doing it at the very top of the market is probably not the right thing to do in practical terms. Politically, it might be more positive option.
Just very quickly, no decisions on stamp duty.
We don't know what's happening on stamp duty, but I would say all of the rumours about stamp duty have been incredibly damaging. We started hearing this in August. There are people who are not moving, not listing homes because they're waiting to find out what's going to happen today, and that has already impacted their housing market.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that, Vicky. Lots to look at when we get the statement at around 12:30 after Prime Minister's questions this afternoon. We'll talk maybe a little later in the programme about
fuel duty, and also a new tax that's coming in for electric vehicles. What sort of effect will that have on the market? You're watching BBC News. Yep. Welcome back. We are in Downing Street ahead of the Chancellor's statement later this afternoon. Andy Verity, Vicky Sprant, Housing and Society correspondent from the iPaper, is with me, and also Nick Dudley, our political correspondent. Andy, on the economic side, we talk about the endemic problems in the UK economy. So low growth, high spending, low productivity, low wages. Why are we in this sort of doom loop, and why are successive chancellors, I don't lay the blame specifically at Rachel Reeves' door, but why are successive chancellors wary of reform?
Why are we in this doom loop? I mean, in a way, people have been struggling to answer that question for the last 20 years, particularly with regards to productivity. So productivity is the amount workers produce per hour. It's not about how hard you work, it's also to do with the technology that you've got, etc., how much you can produce. In the 20th century, that used to go up regularly by more than 2% a year, and that was why employers could afford inflation-beating pay rises. But since about 2004, it's been struggling to get off the ground. There are questions as to whether we're measuring it correctly. But this illustrates the point I was making earlier. By downgrading its forecast for productivity, the Office for Budget Responsibility puts Rachel Reeves in a situation where she has to find another £21 billion. The word find is inappropriate for a fiat currency government that just spends money into existence. That's how it works. It doesn't find it from some magic pot where it's saved up for tax. But nevertheless, if she wants to hit her self-imposed fiscal targets, she then needs to adjust her tax and spending plans in order to accommodate that, and that's why there's been such talk of tax rises. But as for the doom loop, you can put it down to a lot of things. I mean, you've got a huge generational inequality, which Vicky was sort of alluding to, where house price rises redistribute wealth upwards from young to old and from poor to rich. And what we've had over the last 25 years is super low interest rates that have made credits really cheap, which have pushed up prices, and also government policy, which has pushed up prices even further. And you have this horrible misdistribution of space where the people who need houses, young families, can only rent, they can't buy, and the people who don't need them, older folks, baby boomers, have nowhere to sell down to. If they could downsize to suitable properties for people getting older, needing care, then that could be a different situation. But we have a frozen up housing market which doesn't work to serve people's needs. So that's one of the long-term elements. Another is just private indebtedness. The private indebtedness that's taken off alongside house prices has meant that we're vulnerable to crises like the 2008 crisis. And we are totally reliant on interest rates now. So we raise interest rates in order to control inflation. Who does that hit? It hits the people who borrow the most, young people. Who does it benefit? It benefits the people who save the most, older people. Who's getting a triple lock rise in their income, in their state pension income? Older people. Who's getting hit with freezes in working age benefits, or has been in the last 5 years? Working age benefits. So these generational differences are becoming yawning, and the politics of trying to appease the grey vote has left young people very frustrated, as I'm sure you can agree.
Yeah.
It's very difficult.
Well, it is that gap, isn't it, between wages and rent, and that specifically affects young people. A lot of young people in Iran.
Absolutely, and it's a huge problem. And it does relate to productivity. I wrote a piece yesterday which found that people are now spending more than 50% of their income on rent in London and close to that in other places. That means that they don't have money to spend on other things, to do other things. It's a huge problem. Lots of the money that they're earning in work is being absorbed by landlords who rightfully own
Is it tricky? Because one of the criticisms of the Chancellor is the tax that she put on national insurance employers, the national insurance employment tax, which has indirectly affected the employment of younger people at the lower end of the wage bracket. If you look at the Guardian article this weekend, 43% of our jobs that have been lost since this government came in are people under the age of 25. Means those that are not in employment, not in training, is now nearly at 1 million people. So there is a chronic problem here, presumably she needs to address.
She does, and it's also worth remembering that the government promised to solve it. They promised to make employment better for younger people.
They are putting up the minimum wage for young people and for youth workers as well.
Which is great if you have a job and if you're seeing that increase. But there will be that question about employment, about whether this will squeeze out more jobs and businesses by then if they are looking at increasing taxes. It's also worth remembering, Vicky was just saying, this is a government that's promised to deal with the housing shortage and bring prices down by building a lot more. That is something else that's proved frustratingly difficult for ministers to do. They say they're still going to achieve their goals, but a lot of people are struggling to see how that's going to happen.
Well, that's getting people into construction jobs, it's getting the housing market moving, and at the moment they're not creating, they're not creating the environment for that to happen.
There's a shortage of labour in the construction industry, as there is, for example, in the care industry. And this is one of the ways in which your point about having an honest conversation is really key. If you want skilled workers, and we haven't got them, guess what you're going to do? You're going to import them. Most immigration is legal, and that's why we see people from India, from Pakistan coming to staff the health service, coming to do those relatively low-pay, low-skilled jobs, or sometimes high-skilled jobs, which we couldn't otherwise find people to do. That's the sort of conversation that politicians aren't really yet having.
What about the other things that we think will be trailed in this budget? In terms of cost of living, an EV tax, a new tax for people who buy and use electric vehicles, and a freeze on fuel duties. Those are direct things that directly influence people who go to work.
Yeah, they do. I suppose the argument for it will be that if you've got fuel duty, you're paying tax, and how much you're driving. If you've got a petrol or diesel car, you need an equivalent for electrics when more and more people are driving. But the cost of living is going to be absolutely crucial, as well as those increases in the minimum wage for people. We're going to hear a lot about energy prices. There will be more subsidies for people who are on low incomes. I suspect there will be a lot to dissect when it comes to the cost of living. And again, it all comes back to what is the big political message, as well as all the really important economic and housing issues that we're going to talk about later. The big message is what the Chancellor has to say to the country. When you speak to Labour MPs, you speak to actually some people in government as well, they are worried they don't have that big message.
Okay, Nick, Vicky, Andy, thank you very much for the moment. Coverage will continue here at Downing Street. There is a cabinet meeting currently underway. We should soon start to see Secretaries of State emerging from number 10 ahead of the Chancellor's appearance at door at number 11 around 11:15 this morning. You're watching BBC News. You need to give me a bit more direction. You were telling me it was going to a SOT and then we were going to a break, and I don't know what SOT. So if you could just give me clearer direction, that would really help.
I think there was an issue with switching the talk back to stream because George couldn't hear it.
Hi.
But we'll start with Dan Needle.
Can you just give me clear direction as to what we're doing? It was a bit all over the shop there.
I know they were trying to make sure our speakers were good. So they need to be back in.
I'm not hearing output.
Chris Page, who? Who else?
Can you come off?
You done?
I've no idea. Oh, okay. I'm just not hearing output. Oh no.
When you went up in limbo.
Oh, I see. I don't think I was hearing it.
So we're going to the regions, are we?
Oh, I see.
Where's Vicky's one?
It's clear as mud. Are we going to regions?
Yeah.
Dan Needle first?
Yeah.
Well, I've just been told the three people first. Is that it?
Okay, we'll do the three people first. I was just told this one.
Welcome back to Downing Street. We're looking ahead to the budget statement, which is coming up at 12:30 this afternoon after Prime Minister's questions. Lots of speculation, of course, over recent weeks as to what it will mean for businesses, for taxpayers, and for those lower income families. What will it mean for the nations around the UK? Let's get a view on that and bounce around the various nations. Joining me from Stormont, our Ireland correspondent, Chris Page. Let's start there. Chris, tell me a little bit about what you were expecting and how that might appertain to Northern Ireland. Chris, thank you for that. Let's go to Glasgow, speak to Douglas Fraser, our business and economy editor in Scotland. Of course, Labour did very well in Scotland at the last election. Do people feel that the Chancellor is delivering for them? It's going to be really interesting, that one, isn't it, Douglas? So we saw Ed Miliband going through the doors just a short time ago. Questions shouted at him regarding that, because he was certainly an opponent to easing those licences in the North Sea. Thank you very much for that. Let's speak to Hal Griffith, who's in Wales for us. If they're nervous in Labour in Scotland, they're certainly nervous in Wales, Hal. Really important day in the Labour heartlands for the Labour government. Hal, thank you for that. Thank you also to Doug and to Chris. We'll continue to keep an eye on the reaction in the regions and nations around the UK today. Let's get an expert on tax, a view on what's going to be in the budget today. Dan Needle is a tax expert. He's the founder of the Tax Policy Associates. Welcome to you, Dan. Business this week at the CBI conference called for a bolder budget. There was an appeal for the Chancellor perhaps to go back to the original plan and raise income tax. Instead, we're going to get this range of smaller taxes. What will you be looking out for? People saying that she's got to stick to her fiscal rules. If this thresholds freeze that we've talked about applies to national insurance contributions, does that for you constitute a breach of the manifesto? Talk about one of the other issues we've not really touched on, and that is this heavily trailed policy of bringing in a cap on pension contributions and on salary sacrifice. What is that likely to mean? Dan Needle, tax expert, thank you very much for that. Let's get a macro view, shall we? And join Ben Zaranka, who's the Associate Director at the Institute for Fiscal Studies. We're going to hear lots today about headroom, and I want to be very sure that we all know what we're talking about, because we do presume a lot of knowledge on the part of the viewer. Can you explain to us what this buffer is and why it is needed? Yeah, I mean, as you say, it's a narrow margin, 10 billion, and of course you're always at risk of being blown off course by world events. But then Jeremy Hunt did something similar in his final year. It was a narrow headroom that he had. What would satisfy the markets in terms of a sensible amount of money to put aside? Ben Zaranka from the IFS, thank you very much for that. We should inject just a little bit of optimism for a second. We talk about the problems with growth, but there was some suggestion this week at the CBI conference that in fact businesses sitting on investment and in quarter one might be ready to spend as long as they get a break today. So they'll be watching very closely what comes up in the statement. Around 12:30 we're expecting, just after Prime Minister's questions. We'll take a short break. You're watching BBC News. Stupidly with sensible shoes. I should have come in with big problems.
It's a horrible microphone. It's even colder than the rest of it.
So we've got one Emma Wall. Yeah. Yeah. Have you got the top shot of Westminster? Welcome back to Downing Street. We're standing outside number 10 where a cabinet meeting is underway. We should start to see the government emerging very shortly after they've been given their instructions of how to sell this budget, and of course we'll be learning perhaps for the first time what this budget, this statement is going to mean for their departments. We're fidgeting here because it's very cold. It's a frosty morning in Westminster. Let me show you the picture around Whitehall. In fact, we've been hearing the horns of the tractors, which are here. Of course, the farmers not happy with what came out of the last budget and how it affected them. There is actually a cordon in place around the Palace of Westminster today, but you'll see that just on the edge of that cordon there, the farmers are gathering a couple of tractors in the rear there. They were driving around Portcullis House this morning as I was just coming out of the tube, piffing their horns, making themselves known. So we'll get maybe a view from them a little later in the day. Let's bring in Emma Wall, Head of Platform Investment at Hargreaves Lansdowne. What are you looking out for today, Emma? What about pensions? We were just touching on that with Dan Needle. There is we think, a change coming for those who contribute their sacrifice their salaries towards their pensions, which currently they don't pay. There are always winners and losers in any budget.
One Mr. Ben.
Yeah, might be quite nice.
I don't understand this. No, I was joking.
I wasn't.
I just wanted to stand here. I know I stand. Just the freedom.
No, because it was a bit of a last minute, arrive and then they arrive, okay?
Emma, thank you very much indeed for that. I can just tell you actually that the Cabinet meeting here in Downing Street has just finished. We're starting to see secretaries going. There's Yvette Cooper, the Foreign Secretary, who's just leaving. You're watching BBC News. Yeah, as I mentioned, we're starting to see Secretary of State drifting away from the Cabinet meeting, which has just ended. Of course, they will have been given their instructions today how to go out and sell this budget to people like me and all the media that is gathered here in Downing Street. I'm perhaps learning for the first time what this budget will mean for each of their departments. Let's speak to Atul Kochar. He's a chef and restaurateur, owner of several restaurants across the UK. Welcome to you. Let's start by looking back. What did the last budget mean to someone like you running a small business? How did it affect you directly? was a rise in the minimum wage announced yesterday, which fulfills a manifesto commitment that Labour had set out. But what does that mean for you?
No, but you can keep it for if they say something that isn't totally aligned to Friday. That's what you're there for. Thumbnail call. Your 3-day-old picture got used to that.
Inflation is currently running at 3.6% as of October. That's down slightly from September, primarily due to the smaller increases in energy bills, but it is sticky. I wonder how that's affecting your forward planning.
It's still the same thing, yes. Well, it's a picture that we probably should have access to.
Coach, restaurateur, thank you very much for that. Peter Carr, the business centre, the latest to walk out of the door of number 10. In fact, he was the first here this morning because, of course, what will be set out later today will have a direct impact on businesses around the country. So let's go to Bradford and hear from Emma Vardy, our news correspondent, who's gathering opinion today, Emma. Top. Sorry? Right. Right. Right, okay. You can have a break if you want. We've got, we're up to the heads, and then she's going to take it from the top. Then we've got heads, then they're just going to quickly touch on Hong Kong where they've got Tower and and then us.
Okay, so that will be what, 10 past?
10 past? Oh, it's a very quick head. So if you want to walk around, I don't really want to. Yeah, no. Shall we start with she will blame, at the outset, the inheritance, she'll blame tariffs, world events. How much is this a problem of her own making?
I think she'll want to be popular, like she'll try to buy a bit of popularity by cutting
energy bills.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Well, we could talk. That's what he was saying. That Atul Kochhar were just saying they're at their record high.
So that's businesses. Whether she does it for businesses as well as households, it's 5% VAT on energy bills.
Right.
She could remove that and everyone £81. Right. But it's now thought more likely that she will remove the energy, and transfer that to general taxation, which is more progressive.
Is there anything else we haven't touched on?
I mean, there's loads about one of the untold stories is the sin tax. So we're going to be paying more. So there's milkshakes. There's going to be gambling taxes as well.
That's a good one. Yeah, let's do sin tax.
But I think there's a wider. I mean, the thing is, individually, a lot of it. But all together, there's so many pitfalls. There's so many small things that just become plastic tax. Yeah, plastic tax. So by Friday, we're talking about a situation where there's like 3 or 4 things that could be pretty big. Yes.
huge
huge
profits.
banks.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
They've got huge
Well, like a
profits.
windfall tax.
Yeah, we're currently transferring about £22 billion a year to banks. By doing something you don't need to do, then you're paying interest on reserves. That could be reduced. It was reported that she was looking at that. That's been advocated by Reform and also actually on the left by the Greens.
Right.
So it's a sort of mainstream versus right and left debate. You know, so basically they're saying the banks are being fed a bit, you know, and they've got record profits. The share prices are all-time high, but they've lobbied furiously not to get with extra tax. So it may be good news for the banks. You know, with that money, she could easily, although the two-child benefit limits, and have many and have more headroom. Yeah.
That is a good one to do. Let's touch on that. Okay. Live from Downing Street, I'm Christian Fraser. This is BBC News. The Cabinet meeting is underway. No, that's changed. The Cabinet meeting has just finished here in Downing Street ahead of Rachel Reeves' budget announcement, in which she will lay out her tax and spending plans to Parliament. We've got special coverage. The Chancellor says she will make fair and necessary choices to ease the cost of living. Will it be enough to ease the concerns of the markets? Need to change that.
So we talk about banks, I mean, we also talk about whether it's a giveaway or a take.
Right.
Because that's the
Yes.
if they want growth, they should give away, but that has its impact on the public finance.
Check. Yeah. Okay.
So
Trade-offs.
whether the total measures,
Yes.
when you net them all out, put money into the economy or take it out.
Okay. Yep. Get one of each of these before we do. Live from Downing Street, I'm Christian Fraser. This is BBC News. The Cabinet meeting here in Downing Street has just finished ahead of Rachel Reeves' budget announcement, in which she will lay out her tax and spending plans to Parliament. We will have special coverage. The Chancellor says she will make fair and necessary choices to ease the cost of living. But will it be enough to ease the concerns of the markets? Okay. Great, thank you. Sorry? Okay. Okay.
codes.
Fair weather. On course to 22nd. Okay. Hello Lewis, good morning everyone. It is budget day. We are in Downing Street in front of number 11 where later this morning Rachel Reeves will step out with that famous red box and a budget that will shape our fortunes but perhaps also hers and those of the embattled Prime Minister who lives next door. This is a budget that has been through several revolutions already. For at least a week the Chancellor was floating a 2p rise in income tax, then publicly abandoning it, which left her with a conundrum: how to fill a £30 billion hole with a list of much smaller measures. And therein sits a more fundamental question. Why isn't this new government, with its thumping majority, using this moment to drive big reform? Traditionally, new chancellors set out a bold, multi-year vision. The criticism has been that Rachel Reeves has boxed herself in early, setting high expectations while giving herself only the narrowest fiscal room to deliver them. The result is a package that most likely will focus on short-term pressures rather than that longer-term strategy. We'll see later today whether it suits the markets and indeed whether it suits the voters, which of course is the critical test. With me is Andy Verity, our economics correspondent, and also Nick Eardley, our political correspondent. Cabinet's just finished their session this morning, heading off to spell out what it will mean for their departments. I think when we hear from Rachel Reeves today, we'll probably hear her blame the inheritance she was given and world events, the tariffs that are coming from Washington. I don't think anyone really envies Rachel Reeves' job in trying to balance measures at the moment. But how much of this is of her own making?
Well, look, I remember standing here before the general election and saying that whoever was Chancellor was going to have to do different things. You might remember the experts at IFS saying before the general election that politicians weren't being honest about the trade-offs to come and the fact that tax rises were likely to be on the cards unless they were going to be swinging nuts to public services. I think politically, one of the mistakes the Chancellor's made is to make big promises. This time last year at the budget she was saying that extending the income tax threshold freeze would be bad for working families. Well, she's going to do it today, even though presumably she still thinks it's bad for working families. So there's no doubt that Rachel Reeves has made some decisions that have made her life harder. The big question today is whether she's going to be able to sell this as a package that's worth it. And one of the things I think would be really interesting to watch, maybe not at 1 o'clock this afternoon, maybe not even by this evening, but over the next few days, is how the series of tax rises that we're going to see goes down. So we talked a few weeks ago about income tax rates going up. That's not happening. There's been a big manifesto busting moment. The government isn't going ahead with that. I've been looking at a list of some of the things we think are going to happen. Some of them confirmed, some of them highly likely. So we know the sugar tax is being extended. We know those tax thresholds are going to be frozen for an extra couple of years, and that will impact on millions of families across the country. We think there's going to be more of a cap on tax-free pension contributions. There's going to be a mansion tax on more expensive homes in England. There is going to be a pay-per-mile scheme for electric vehicles, higher gambling taxes. There's going to be the restrictions of how much you can save tax-free into an ISA. There is a lot in there that could become a bit controversial, maybe a bit unstuck, and in that sense, it's still a pretty high-stakes budget.
But when you settle that out, we can all think back, those of us who've done this before, to 2012, the so-called omni-shambles budget of George Osborne, which actually days later was unpicked. Is politically, is there more risk when you're looking at various other things that previous chancellors have actually looked at and discounted? Because there are no new ideas in the game.
The hunch is that this will go down fairly well with Labour MPs. They'll have enough in there that they can support it. However, the big caveat to that is Labour MPs are a pretty restless bunch at the moment. When I go 5 minutes down the road and chat to them in Parliament, there are so many who are just so angry with the way Rachel Reeves Budget have been running the show over the last 18 months, that if there were a big controversy to pop up over the next 48 hours, I don't think there's any guarantee.
Why does that matter? She stepped off the decision on income tax because of the pressure that's coming from backbenches. That puzzles some people around. They've got a thumping majority. They're in the early days of this parliament. Why does she need to listen to those propositions?
One word, welfare. They do have a thumping majority. I remember a few months ago when the government tried to do some pretty controversial things to bring the welfare budget down. What happened? Despite that thumping majority, enough Labour MPs turned against the plans that they had to put them on ice and postpone them for ages. One of the reasons, by the way, that the Chancellor has to find a bit extra cash today. So one of the strange paradoxes of having a big majority is that those MPs who feel that they might want to stir the pot a bit and rebel, maybe feel they have a bit more room to do it. These things can snowball. I'm not suggesting, Christian, that the Chancellor is not going to get the budget through. I don't think that is a realistic prospect at the moment. What I am suggesting is that Labour MPs have an appetite for rebellion. Despite their thumping majority, they see the polls just like the rest of us. They're terrified of losing their seats. If something's unpopular with their constituents, at the moment they are pretty febrile and they are prepared to turn around to number 10 and number 11 and say, we can support it. So there's political pressure is the answer.
She needs to win the confidence of her party. She also needs to win and in the confidence of the markets. Now, last year she said this was a one-off event, once in a generation style budget, that she wouldn't be coming back for more. And here she is, looking for £30 billion. What is the problem and what does she need to fix?
Well, I mean, the problem is we don't have the growth that we need to bring her the tax receipts she wants in order to put the public finances on the right footing. And here there's a straightforward trade-off between the public finances on the one hand and the economy on the other. If you want economic growth, you can't be taking money out of the economy, you want to be putting it into the economy. So one of the things I'll be looking for is this a takeaway budget where tax rises and spending cuts are higher than the reverse, or is it a giveaway where you're giving more away in tax cuts or spending rises than the reverse? And that's key, because if it's a giveaway, she's got a chance of getting growth off the floor. Let's not forget, it was 0.1%. Unemployment, 5%, as you mentioned. The under 24 is not in education and employment neither, 46,000. So there's all reasons for Labour MPs to be wound up. Another reason is facts. Excellent.
You're looking to do all the king and queen and rubbish. There's a lot of people to get stories.
Are you going?
No, moving on. So,
On the spot.
how good to you?
No, probably he's good.
Oh, are you? Okay, I'll wait.
Just gotta wait for this to be moved.
Yeah, I think that'll have to go in at the last.
Move out of the way so we can get past and then I'll go in. Type thing.
Thank you.
All in some
and get into your ladder.
Who's that?
PMQs. 11:05.
Yeah, that makes sense. He leaves first. I mean, the truth is today that picture doesn't mean anything.
No, but we still have to do it, that's the thing. Just in case there's something arises. You know, if you don't do it, then something will arise. And is he going to go that way or that way?
Is that where they're going? Is that where they're going? Yeah, really.
Where?
That's the new. No. That's the new.
Sneak in there to turn everything on now. Sorry.
And it was like PMQs, and then there was some sort of other demonstration, and there was a fact part.
Everyone using the same +3. Well, they were. Everyone else bumping 5 by everyone else. Oh, that's all right. But how many channels are there? There are 27 channels. Is it automatic? I've got one of these, but I never really use it. Do they, does it automatically find 3 channels? Thought actually later R3s, R5s, R1s, they've been built in. Morning.
Front and centre.
How are you?
Yeah, good.
Very good.
I'm sorry about the heating wasn't turned up this morning.
Yeah.
And then you get a heart attack because someone's got a rush in. It's
I think it'll get half a stop.
She was
Right.
just like, I went to Spa in the summer and she's like, there's some costume in like these like Popeye muscles. And she's like, yeah, well, you know, I go to the gym and I do this body pump and I do swimming and I do. And I was like, I'm driving. Anyway, since then, she did her back in, she's done her ankle in, and then she did something to her eye, so she's now not allowed to do any exercise whatsoever. She's got some cataract thing that's been caused by too much pressure built up in the eye from too much weight or something. And then like it's just something that happens when you get older. So in the summer when she's like little Miss Popeye, she's got it's just like, oh, I can walk and that's it. So I'm like, yeah, it's so he's going to have to come and turn it on again because it's off. Meanwhile, get on rush, butter. I'd like to sit down, but I don't know what kind of kerfuffle is going to be in front. But if it stays,
yeah, she's the one. Where's the other one? Yeah, it's in the blue light.
Remind me to press the button.
Yeah, they both seem to be firing.
But I will try and sit because I think it's fine. She's quite short, so she might block the 11. So it should be alright. That's Victoria and that's Tolga. Yeah, well, Victoria wasn't there because Tolga and me were here, but then Victoria squeezed in. Well, I guess they will. They might sit, I think Victoria might sit because she wanted Simon to sit on the ground. But then I think Tony's remote is in her way anyway.
I don't know who is here.
Simon, isn't it?
I don't think Simon
Oh, is it
Dawson
not Simon?
No, I think he's shooting from over there.
Oh, maybe it's Kirsty.
It's not Kirsty, she's inside. I think this might be our videographer.
Okay. Oh, Luca.
No, not Luca.
Not Luca. Another one?
Yeah, Ewan.
Ewan?
Ewan.
Ewan. Oh, Ewan.
Yeah, I think
I don't know
it's
if
Ewan.
I know his face.
I don't think I need to do any more.
I guess this accepts just very tragic.
Morning, Si. Are you shooting out here?
Yeah, but I'm just going to go to the car.
Where Si is?
Is that where Simon? Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'll just do that. I think. We're just trying to get to that low.
Have you seen our videographer around? Ewan?
Joanna? Oh, no, I've not seen him today. Hello, mate. You okay? Cold, isn't it?
I think he's coming out here.
I'm not actually cold.
Yeah. I've not seen any of them yet. Kirsty's in.
Yeah, I know.
But I've not seen half asleep probably.
All right.
likes Justin. Justin doesn't really like us.
Good morning. I'm alright, how are you? Good. Yeah, never a dull moment.
Is it going?
Yeah.
Cool. Excellent. Everyone's going as well.
How are you, old chap?
Well, how are you?
Surviving. You need a hat.
I used to use the regular one initially, and then I tried
Fine.
Yeah.
If it's working,
There's quite a lot of over-checking
don't
going
fix
on.
it.
Yeah.
So I've experienced that sort of thing before. Normally, points to the server how much you use. And I'm not convinced it's a problem on my end. Like I said, I know the cable was fine because someone else was
I'm editing, I'm actually in work. How you been, Simon? Alright. Keeping busy. What trouble are you getting in now?
Always. Right.
No, I've just sent
How's life been? In business? Travelling a lot?
Too busy.
It's a little bit stressful.
Let's go over the top of it.
I
mean, we just can't. Don't get me wrong. I've got to run in. Oh, Ewan's here. Ewan's here.
Oh, cool.
Solos first.
Never had a problem before that. So I've got the normal test. Everything was fine. And then literally 2 minutes into the game.
There's a spot. There's a spot here.
What that one was? Good. Universe. Star One. No, sorcery. You're not higher up in the French hierarchy. Sunk in the depths of the. How's the new boss? Who's the new favourite?
Ewan, are you sitting here? You might need to sit on the floor.
Yeah, you wouldn't need to otherwise.
Because I think there are people shooting through here.
We have a very limited window.
Who's shooting inside, Joanna?
Yeah.
Si, I presume these are for you in. Presume these are for you in.
That's for us. So if you want to sit on that, it's fine.
That's what I mean, that's for you in.
Oh, I chucked that down earlier on for photo. So that made you remember between the two.
I'm here, you and you're shooting from the side, are they?
No, I'm just going to go down there.
Cool.
Cursing like this one, that one, so I wasn't sure. So I've chucked the remote down.
Lovely.
Just for slow shutter speed.
So happens.
Yeah.
Alright.
Oh yeah, I better tell them.
Looking forward to domestic visits.
Which one? Do you know?
Not sure. There's some nice domestic stuff. Slowly getting there. Checking, bit of process. Yeah, a painful one. It's quite nice days like today, so I'm just like, whatever. Where do you want to go?
Yeah.
Don't care.
Are you doing that one? But I don't want to get out of here because it's very tight to get out to get back in. So it makes more sense for me to go out this way. And we walk in and depends where it's
Makes you kind of like appreciate your job.
What time are you in?
I think you had a poor position, so you knew that. So I needed half three.
No pictures of that anyway. I'd rather just not get the picture.
I will try to sit down if I can, but I'm waiting for Neil to finish his thing so that I can text my stuff. Yeah, I mean, ideally, I should be sitting down. If there's enough room for me to sit down.
Yeah.
They're sold for in front of me.
So if he's suddenly going, and then you can't get back to them after he's gone.
Very wide step, make sure they're
But yeah, but I think
switched on. I feel he had a phone this late.
The light has definitely lifted.
No, you're fine.
Hey Tobes, how are you?
Are you?
As good as can be expected, probably better than I deserve.
That's it. I might borrow it.
How are you? How are you? Good?
Relatively handy.
remaining tools in the armoury and not try and learn any new tricks.
Yeah. I saw there was
It's not the
various
ability not to
new
learn, it's just
positions in your place advertising.
The what?
You know, in some new roles or so. Was the job an
With
existing
staff
job?
Yeah, Isabel's got it.
Who's got it?
Isabel. So Spain and London she was working in. She was AFP for a while.
Okay.
Holly was probably would have been in line, but it's also at the time it's going to be Australia. Yeah, she's Australian and she's very good. She's Australian.
Who's editing? Who's picture editing? Whatever they call it.
Well, all of this stuff is just done around the world. Poland mainly this time. Poland for European times.
So there isn't. Who's chief in London?
Suzanne.
Oh right, still.
Well, I know you're not doing travelling jobs at PM, but some of the travelling jobs, if it's PM, she's likely to do this Hannah or me. Yeah, sure. That sounds like the only downside is it's one of those things that every time she travels, something happens over here, and she needs to be in charge of everything. So we always like shut my eyes when last 3 trips.
Oh really?
Synagogue. There's still a few old faces. Dylan's still at Austin's.
Is he? What's he doing? I mean, what's he actually doing on a daily basis?
At the moment, he's sitting at home resting out very complex Fiscal operation.
Oh right, okay.
If he was doing what his job description is, he'd be mentoring photographers around the world and be very good at it. He's not really being used for that. So he's doing very good high-end sports assignments still, which is great. He's very good at it. Things, but that's not very good. Premier League, but he doesn't get on with Suzanne, and Suzanne doesn't like him really. I'm afraid they don't see eye to eye, so he doesn't make himself available for UK news.
Is he on the same sort of level, or who does he answer to?
I don't know if he answers to anyone. But honestly, I don't know.
Because Ricky's gone, hasn't he?
He's going.
Oh right.
Dylan might have been answering to him.
I would have thought so. Is Ricky being replaced?
I think he probably was.
Because he was like global or something.
Frankly, he was toothless. Yeah. Oh, he didn't. There's other people who did much more influential, helpful things, visuals.
Well, they were doing the heavy lifting, and he was sort of there.
I think he could help out, get people out of trouble and manage to help do the evacuation process for families out of Gaza and stuff with staff if they wanted it.
Right.
So that stuff was very important. Generally, the promoting pictures globally, he wasn't very good. But what do I know? I wouldn't want any of those.
So Dylan isn't coming in the office, going in the office? Or?
Yeah, he's in the office loads, just looking at a screen. And he likes coming in the office when he's been working, which is weird. I think out of mind. Dylan. I think we've got one full photo. And now Isabel. WhatsApp groups say
the people who are going to be working behind you are currently wearing PM. So when the PM is left in 10 minutes,
no, I do at the same time. So as quick as possible, now I get out of your way, Steve. So I didn't turn around when you said hello a minute ago because I didn't realise
you need to address yourself.
But I was you were addressing me.
What? PM?
In lots of ways, yes. Yes.
you'll find he does do online YouTube tutorials. Yeah.
What's his handle?
Fuck this for a game of soldiers. Fuck this for a game of soldiers, I think.
Is the exposure going to change in the next hour?
I think you're probably set because it's gone up by at least half a stop in the last 2 hours. I think it's about 400, 250, 280, 32. Sorry?
Yeah, it is.
I'm 60 under ISO 1505 F5.
Yeah, that's the same as. Yeah.
No, it's
extra 2 stops.
I'm almost there, Steve.
What's the width of that then? Is that a pancake?
No, it's close to 50. It's very, very loose really for this, but it's a safety.
Yeah.
It's a safety.
One on the floor as well.
And the other stuff around the place.
That must be costing I don't know, 25, 30 grand. And they'll split it, won't they?
Yeah.
Have you seen that then? That one down there, that camera there, is shooting on a, this one. You saw it working earlier, it's shooting with when someone walked into the frame, it fires automatically. Do they? I didn't. My Canon doesn't do that, I'm sure.
You're not speaking to the technician.
No, I'm neither me.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
I don't think Canons do that.
Canons devices.
Compared to Nikons. Nikons are quite temperamental. I think you could see us. We cover the whole RGB.
I leave it as it is, like that, without the straw. Yeah. I leave it as it is.
quite like though, right?
If that.
I kind of no rush for that.
I'll pop in anyway.
Told with my cable.
So, how does that work?
1 second. But basically like a time lapse. Because something told me to take my cable on, I'm like, it fails after time anyway.
1 second.
That's it. I think I missed something, but it sounds there for like 60 seconds. Well, I is it long to minute? Victoria and it's
No, you do. But I've literally pressed them tightly against longer.
We are
Keep going to stop. If I was doing in case that runs out back.
Oh, sorry. Want to check it?
quite like Bert.
My success rate with the votes is pretty low. One time it was PM maybe it was someone, and then it was raining. Someone took my rain covers. I think it's basically like my roommate had this. I had that a couple of years ago. I had to go on the patch of dancing. To be honest,
Order. We start with questions to the Secretary of State for Scotland, Peter Bedford.
Question 1, Mr. Speaker.
Secretary of State.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If you will allow me, it seems fitting to begin by congratulating the Scottish men's football team on qualifying for the World Cup next year. For the first time since 1998, when I, along with the Tartan Army, watched them in France, we will be back on the world's largest stage. Steve Clarke and the team are truly history makers, and we are very, very proud of them. With permission, Mr. Speaker, I will answer questions 1, 14 and 15 together. Alas, today Scotland is being held back by the Scottish Government's dogmatic opposition to nuclear power. New nuclear projects can deliver millions of pounds of investment and thousands of high-quality jobs and apprentices. Scotland is well placed to benefit from the jobs, investment and energy security that nuclear can provide, but frankly, we need a change at Holyrood.
Peter Bedford.
Mr. Speaker, what discussions has the Secretary of State had with the SNP government in Scotland, whose Luddite approach and ideological blinkers prevent Torness, Dounreay and Hunterston being considered for future nuclear projects, with all the jobs and investment that goes with them?
Well, Mr. Speaker, this seems at least an occasion on which there's a genuine cross-party consensus. Not only have we urged, and I do so again today, a different approach from the Scottish Government, but my friend, the Secretary of State for Energy and Net Zero, has already asked Great British Energy Nuclear to begin assessing Scotland's capability for new-build nuclear sites.
Sir Geoffrey Clifton-Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the Secretary of State not agree that actually renewables require a considerable expense in connecting to the grid? And would not the former nuclear sites of Hunterston, Torness and Dounreay make very suitable sites for new nuclear power stations from which the Scottish people have benefited hugely in the past?
Mr. Speaker, I should declare an interest in that Torness is, of course, in Lothian East, my own constituency. It provides about 750 well-paid, highly paid unionised jobs. Of course, we would welcome the opportunity either for AMR, SMR or new-build nuclear on the Torness site. But when you talk to the EDF management there, they say the opposition of the Scottish Government is what is preventing equivalent investment from the kind that we saw recently announced at Torness's sister plant in Hartlepool.
Mr. Griffiths.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Number 15, please. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A key plank of the SNP's dogmatic argument against new nuclear is cost. Will the right honourable gentleman find a quiet moment, perhaps when the winds fall light and the turbines stop, to point out to them the reduced costs of small modular reactors?
Well, of course, there's new technologies emerging, as the Honourable Lady recognises, and we are delighted that Rolls-Royce are one of the companies in the lead in terms of that new wave in nuclear technology. But you don't even need to look to the future. Look at the most recent past, where there are occasions where the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine in Scotland. That's why Torness provides significant baseload capability. We see new-build nuclear as being an essential part of that energy mix going forward. Alas, the Scottish Government don't understand that.
Peter Murray.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the Minister agree that Scotland cannot meet its long-term energy security and net zero goals without new nuclear power, and that centres such as the University of Strathclyde's internationally recognised PNDC, whose expertise in grid integration and systems resilience is world-leading, will be essential to the safe and effective deployment of next-gen nuclear technologies across Scotland?
Mr. Speaker, I wholeheartedly agree with my honourable friend that the expertise of our research centres here in the United Kingdom, including the University of Strathclyde's PNDC, is absolutely critical. The crucial research that they are undertaking will help further the safe and effective deployment of new nuclear technology. We are watching a wave of nuclear technological innovation around the world. Alas, we need to make sure that not just our universities but our communities across Scotland can benefit from that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Last week I spoke to trade unions in Scotland who argued the ideological ban on nuclear power is costing young people career opportunities for well-paid and long-term jobs. In my own constituency, an SNP councillor is spreading misinformation and arguing against highly skilled nuclear jobs, safely dismantling submarines at Rosyth. Does the Secretary of State agree with me that this pervasive and misinformed approach is holding back our country? And will he urge the First Minister to distance himself from the comments of the councillors in my constituency and welcome these jobs to Rosyth.
Well, Mr. Speaker, of course I condemn such misinformation. The reality is, as a government, we're investing £340 million in the Rosyth dockyard. I was in Fife on Monday, met with Fife College, with Fife Chamber of Commerce, with Babcock's, with Navantia from down the coast. There is a huge level of investment going in, but alas, we're in a position where the Scottish Government seems resistant to harnessing the potential of defence growth deals to secure new opportunities, not least for apprentices in Scotland.
Johnny Reid.
Mr. Speaker, since my election I've met with many employers, both local and national, who have expressed, to put in parliamentary terms, frustration at the SNP's lack of no-nuclear policy. This is stopping my constituents from getting access to high-quality jobs and preventing investment as well. Does the Secretary of State agree with me that this is a political choice which is stopping Scotland from actively receiving good quality jobs and investment?
Mr. Speaker, I find myself in agreement with my honourable friend. This is not just an anti-jobs measure by the Scottish Government. I would argue it's an anti-science measure. Let's remember, nuclear power is carbon-free. Given the challenge that we face in relation to climate change, why would you want to resist a technology that can provide reliable, safe and cheap carbon-free energy for decades to come?
Secretary of State Andrew Barr.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And can I join the Secretary of State in congratulating Steve Clark and the Scotland football team for qualifying for their first World Cup since I was 11 years old. I very much remember getting the afternoon off of school, and I hope that the Speaker takes the same approach to the parliamentary day as my head teacher took to the school day when we do have our first game next year. Scotland has a long, proud history of nuclear power generation. We have the skills, the sites and indeed the local support, but we also have in the SNP Scottish Government a Luddite mentality, choking off investment, preventing new jobs and going against the wishes of local communities like those in Dunbar that I know the Secretary of State knows well, who want to see Torness secured for future generations. So what does the Secretary of State think it will take for the SNP to join that growing list of countries around the world and allow the global revolution in clean, safe nuclear power to reach Scotland?
Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to tell the honourable gentleman what I think it will take. I think it will take a change of government next May, and it's time for a new direction in Scotland.
Question number 2.
Secretary of State.
With permission, Mr. Speaker, I'll answer questions 2, 10 and 12 together. Over the last year, we have increased the national living wage, a pay rise for 200,000 of the lowest paid Scots, delivered a generational upgrade to workers' rights, had 5 interest rate cuts and of course expanded the warm home discount scheme, meaning 1 in 5 Scottish households are getting £150 off their bills. But we do need to go further and faster, and the Chancellor has pledged targeted action to bring down inflation further.
Ms Savile-Roberts.
Does indeed need to go further. The Scottish Government this morning laid the regulations necessary to mitigate the 2-child cap brought in by Labour and carried on by Labour. Scotland is the only part of the UK where child poverty is falling. It's the only part of Great Britain with a non-Labour government. Does he recognise the huge role played by the Scottish child payment in tackling poverty head-on? And does he agree with me that Labour in Cardiff Bay and Labour and Westminster should follow the Scottish Government's lead?
He won't agree, though.
As part of a government that saw child poverty fall significantly, I believe that we will be true to that commitment. I hope there may be more for the Chancellor to say in the coming minutes, but you can be assured that we welcome all measures that reduce child poverty after many years in which, tragically, we've seen poverty rise.
Mr. Black.
In the 16 months, then, since the King's speech, when Labour MPs were whipped to vote against scrapping the 2-child cap, how many children have been pitched into poverty as a result of his refusal to scrap the cap?
Here, here.
Mr. Speaker, we've always been clear that we wanted to take action on the basis of sound public finances. That is why it is a Labour government that has been willing to take the difficult and challenging steps. I'm old enough to remember the criticism from those benches after 1997, and we went on to lift record number of kids out of poverty. That's why I welcome the approach that's been taken by our Chancellor.
Mr. Logan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's just over 500 days since this government came to power, and the Chancellor's and the government's policies have been a disaster for the north east of Scotland, with the cost of living problems, whether that's the impact of our national insurance hikes on jobs and investment, the family farm tax on the agricultural sector, the energy profits levy, which is killing jobs in the offshore sector, or the raw deal offered to our fishing industry with the Coastal Growth Fund. Can the Secretary of State tell me and the House, should we expect the Chancellor to fix this mess that she has made, or will this budget be another failure for the people of the North East?
Too long.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It won't surprise you that I'm not going to prejudge the announcements the Chancellor will be making from this dispatch box in just a few minutes' time, but I certainly don't recognise the characterisation he's offered of the first 15 so months of this Labour government. It was always going to take more than 18 months to undo the damage of the last 18 years. What we've seen is 200,000 Scots already lifted out of poverty, record rises in the national minimum wage, and that work will continue.
Mr. Speaker, this government is embarking on delivering the biggest upgrade of workers' rights in a generation, which will provide income security for many in my Edinburgh North and Leith constituency. I'm not surprised that Conservative peers are blocking it in the other place. However, we, my right honourable friends, share my constituents' shock that the Liberal Democrats and now the Green members are too.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to say I'm shocked and surprised, but very little the Liberal Democrats do can shock or surprise me. The truth is the bill is expected to benefit people in the most deprived areas of the country by up to £600 in lost income from the hidden costs of insecure work. That's exactly the work we as a Labour government are called to tackle.
Speaker, what discussions has the Secretary of State had with the Chancellor of the Exchequer about the impact for Scotland from the increase in the national living wage?
Mr. Speaker, there were discussions in the Cabinet involving myself and the Chancellor of the Exchequer only this morning, but I would certainly pay tribute to the work that she and others in Government have done, ensuring both that upgrade in workers' rights and that pay rise for the 200,000 poorest paid Scots.
Stephen Guthrie.
Mr. Speaker, can the Secretary of State tell us by how much household energy bills have risen since Labour came to power?
Good question. Mr. Speaker, I hope we'll be hearing more about energy bills later this afternoon.
Stephen Guthrie.
So the Secretary of State clearly doesn't know. I'm going to help him. They've risen by £187 for the average household, with more rises due on the way. Now, the Secretary of State might also want to know that today is National Energy Action's Fuel Poverty Awareness Day. Scotland is one of the most energy-rich parts of Europe, with our renewables and our hydrocarbons that the Treasury has benefited from over the years. Does he get the frustration of this government when it comes to the cost of living on fuel poverty, food prices and child poverty due to Tory policies that they've maintained?
Mr. Speaker, this is a government that has taken action and will continue to take action. In his rather partial account, he missed out the around 530,000 households in Scotland that are already benefiting in relation to the £150 off their energy bills this winter, and I hope that we'll hear more today.
Jerome Mayo.
Number 3, sir.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, over the last year, this government has taken action to fix the foundations of our economy, to put the public finances on a sustainable path and support growth. Despite the UK economy being forecast to be the second fastest growing G7 economy this year, and despite private companies like Iberdrola investing £10 billion in Scotland's energy sector alone, there is more to do. The recently published Muscatelli report shows that under the SNP, economic growth has been ignored and the unique potential of communities across Scotland has been held back. That's why today the Chancellor will set out a budget to boost economic growth in each and every part of the UK.
Mr. Speaker, the latest growth figures in Scotland have been terrible, just 0.2%. They're even worse than Labour's figures for England of 0.3%. So what has been more damaging to the Scottish economy? Has it been SNP policies in Holyrood, or is it the Labour policies here in Whitehall?
Mr. Speaker, the SNP government is clearly not doing what is required to drive growth in Scotland. But I would say to the honourable member, we are dealing with the legacy of Conservative economic mismanagement of 14 years. Their catastrophic policy of austerity, their mismanagement of the pandemic and a failed Brexit deal. And you don't just have to take my word for it. The present leader of the Conservative Party has been clear the Conservatives have no plan for growth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does my honourable friend share my regret that rather than building 39 new health centres, or building 30 new primary schools, or employing 23,700 nurses in our NHS, that the Scottish Government has been content to keep £1 billion of an underspend rather than investing that money in Scottish public services and having a consequential effect on Scotland's economy?
Mr. Speaker, I couldn't agree more. Since the election, this government has delivered an extra £5.2 billion of funding for the Scottish Government. It should be making life easier for Scots, but it's being completely wasted by the SNP. And what do they have to show for this record-breaking settlement? We simply cannot waste another decade with this failing SNP government. It's long past time for a new direction.
Andrew Bowie, Shadow Secretary of State.
Very much, Mr. Speaker. A key driver of growth in Scotland is the agricultural sector, and Mr. Speaker, I can tell you that Scottish farmers feel utterly ignored and totally abandoned by this Labour government. I have here a copy of a letter that was delivered to all Scottish Labour MPs, urging them to call on their own government to reconsider the family farms tax. One farmer who wrote to the members opposite said that these tax changes would destroy the family farms that feed Scotland, and he was delivering this letter as a plea for their future. So can the Minister tell the House, have those pleas fallen on deaf ears?
Mr. Speaker, the honourable gentleman and I have discussed this many times, and he's aware that we are striking a fair balance between supporting farmers and fixing the public services on which all of our rural communities rely. We've taken a fair and balanced approach that protects the family farm while also fixing the public services that we all rely on, including our own constituents.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Pleas to the Minister and the Secretary of State ignored from farmers, just as other pleas from other sectors key to driving growth in Scotland have been ignored. Scotland has the worst of both worlds, two socialist and economically illiterate governments, and a Scotland office that turns a deaf ear to the pleas of the sectors that could drive growth in our country. It's no surprise the Scottish people are about to reject Labour in May's election yet again. So after today's budget, who does the Secretary of State think will feel most abandoned? Scottish farmers, Scottish distillers, Scottish family businesses, Scottish oil and gas workers, or poor Anna Sarwar and the Scottish Labour Party?
Mr. Speaker, the honourable gentleman is perfectly well aware that the majority of those claiming relief under agricultural property relief will be completely unaffected, 3/4 of them. What will affect every single person in Scotland, however, is the Chancellor's budget, which is set to help with living standards, drive growth and put the sound financial management of our public finances at the heart.
Number 4, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Immigration is, of course, a reserved issue, and the Home Secretary set out last week an asylum policy that will work for all parts of the United Kingdom. It contains the most sweeping asylum reforms in modern times, commensurate to the scale of the issues before us. These reforms will restore control, contribution and fairness to the system. I'm proud that our country has always been fair, tolerant and compassionate, and this government will always defend those values.
Mr. Speaker, this government's new heinous asylum and immigration policy marks a dark moment for many who have chosen Scotland to be their home, even leaving children born in Scotland at risk of deportation. I don't know if the ministers actually notice, but we're facing a population and demography crisis that this will only make 10 times worse. And if we don't address it, this is going to have a huge impact on our economy and social services. So why does Scottish Labour actually support an immigration policy that is contrary to the Scottish interest?
Mr. Speaker, what Scottish Labour, like the rest of the Labour Party, supports is a system that is both humane and restores control. That's in the best interest of communities, it's in the best interest of those seeking asylum and to migrate themselves. We are proud to support it, and we know that the rest of the country wants a system that has both control and fairness as its guiding principles.
Chris Murray.
Speaker, in Scotland there are approximately 4 times as many people fleeing oppression from Ukraine and Hong Kong as there are asylum seekers. There has been no public outcry, they have been welcomed. This shows Scotland is a generous country, willing to play our part if the system is fair and controlled. And moreover, this year, 14 children drowned in the Channel coming here. Does the Minister agree with me that there is nothing progressive about not fixing a system where public support for refugees drains and children drown?
Mr Speaker, I'm sure the whole House will join me in remembering those children that have drowned in the Channel, and I couldn't agree with my honourable friend more. There is nothing progressive or humane about a system that incentivises people to take those terrible, terrible risks with life, and I commend my honourable friend for all the work that he's done with those seeking asylum and refuge over very many years.
Chris Kay.
Question number 5, Mr Speaker.
Mr Speaker, the funding of Forth Valley College is a matter for the Scottish Government. Scottish colleges have had their funding cut by 20% between 21-22 and 25-26. As the UK Government, we have delivered a record funding settlement to the Scottish Government, so for as long as there has been no final decision reached regarding the Alloa campus, I would urge the Scottish Government, in the words of Flower of Scotland, to think again.
Chris Kay.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Years of SNP underfunding have pushed Forth Valley College into financial crisis. Just when we needed to deliver skills for Stilling's film studio, the Grangemouth transition and shipbuilding and defence in the Forth and Clyde, the Alloa campus is facing closure. Does he agree that the SNP is undermining Scotland's future by neglecting the institutions that drive growth, and that Scotland needs a Labour government with Anas Sarwar to rebuild our colleges and our skills base?
Mr Speaker, the facts are clear. The spending review was historic for Scotland and delivered the largest real-term settlement for the Scottish Government in the 25 years of devolution, with an average £50.9 billion per year between 2026-27 and 28-29. It simply makes no sense to be cutting the FE College budget in Scotland by 20%. It's definitely time for that new direction.
Susan Murray, Liberal Democrat spokesperson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. After 18 years of SNP government in Scotland, the education system is failing and qualified Scottish pupils are being turned away from Scottish universities. Meanwhile, the private sector in the west of Scotland, like the Energy Technical Academy in my constituency of Mid Dunbartonshire, is upskilling workers who are paying so that they can install EV chargers and heat pumps. Will the Secretary of State explain to the Scottish Government that educating young people and further education training is good for Scotland?
Mr Speaker, I sincerely hope they're listening to the very powerful points made by the Honourable Lady. 89,600 young people in Scotland today are not in work, education or training. That's equivalent to about 16.1%. 1 in 6 of our young people in Scotland. Scotland deserves better than a Scottish Government failing 1 in 6 of its young people.
Richard Baker.
Question number 6, Mr Speaker.